we believe that creative health is as important as mental health. We believe that writing is a really accessible way to feel better about yourself, connect with you, and maybe connect with the world.
Brilliant.
And so how can we bring as many people as possible on that journey? People who want to be writers, people who don't know yet that they are writers. I think community for me is defined as a many-to-many engagement. It's not one-to-many, it's many-to-many. And often communities have outputs. Things are created because people interact, people find each other. Maybe they form friendships, but they collaborate together. They do table reads together.
Yeah.
They write books, write stage plays, they write comedy reels. There was no aspiration for anything other than, wouldn't it be fun? And wouldn't it be great to get people together so that they feel less alone? We always ask writers what their relationship with self-doubt is. And I have yet to come across anyone who has said, what do you mean? There is no one way. There is no magic bullet. But what is true for the writers that do well is that they know what works for them, and they likely have experimented with what works for them. I fear the pain that might come if someone thinks, God, she's an idiot. What has she written? But then there might be someone who just thinks, okay, I understand her a little bit better. Maybe I'll reach out to her. It's a constant challenge. It's easy to work. It's easy for that to take over your life. And how do you create a balance? Where's the line?
Yeah.
When your work is your passion, where's the line where it's just for you?
That's good. So we'll edit the beginning off. That's fine. So we're good. Pull that close to you so we can hear you.
Oh, hello. Testing. Louis Theroux does it. Have you seen the Louis Theroux podcast? He does it. It's really clever where they record as people are walking into the room, and they like chit chat with producers and stuff. So it makes it feel like you're getting a behind the scenes.
Oh, I like
it's really
that.
natural.
It's kind of fun.
It's lovely. A little bit of an insight. And I also think that it makes it seamless when they then goes into the main chunk of the conversation.
Does he do a formal intro at some point?
No.
So he
They
just
just
goes,
start talking.
Yeah. I think they're talking, and then he'll ask a question.
And
then
that's the go moment. I like it.
It's just really, and Adam Buxton, I think, does something quite similar.
I don't. Oh, I've heard his name.
Yeah.
I've thought about doing that with our podcasts are done with a live audience. And I've always thought, I wonder if, say I had Julia Cameron in the green room, would it be interesting for members to be there or to see it? And would it make the guest uncomfortable? It means we can't set up because we have technical things that we need to set up. I have guidelines, and I want to also speak personally to her or such guests. But I've always thought about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something, I mean, I am probably more than not, like, I like to do things that are not the way that everyone does them, probably to a fault. But doing that sort of like, well, what if it was just us having a conversation and it happened to be recorded, right? Like, what if that was the vibe? Or
Joe Rogan stuff.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I mean, Joe they just meander all over the place, and it goes on for so long. But
but it's popular. But it's one of the best podcasts.
And,
I mean, most popular podcast.
Yeah, exactly. So something works in that, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for being here, Parul. I really appreciate it. It's great to have you on, and it'd be fun. I think it's gonna be a fun conversation. We, in particular, I think Jamie, maybe even more so than me, fashions himself as a bit of a writer in some ways, and he's encouraged me to do more writing. And so, for us to think about what that is with you and talk about it, I think is going to be helpful.
Yeah. So, Parul, we'd love, we're big fans of the London Writers Salon, what you're doing. And we would love, rather than give our version, we would love to hear from you of like, tell us what it is, tell us how it started. Why do you and Matt, start it? Tell us, Matt.
Yeah. So I suppose how it came about, Matt was someone I'd met through Escape the City. He used to be a facilitator at Escape the City, and I'd gone along. At that point, I'd left publishing, traditional publishing. I was working in the startup world, but I felt slightly soulless. I felt slightly soulless, and I knew I wanted to work back in the creative space, but I didn't know how. So I went along to Escape the City because they put on workshops and things like that around finding your passion. Then years later, Matt and I bumped into each other in a cafe, the Escape Cafe, and I had been dreaming about, I was a freelance editor at this point, living in Tokyo, but I'd come back to London, and I was dreaming about creating something for writers, because a lot of my freelance clients are writers, people who wanted to get published, would have these ideas about what it meant to be a writer, or how all the sort of myths that were needed, the myths about what it took to get a deal. And I was like, I'd love to dispel some of this. And I was having these conversations with my friends who were still in the publishing world, like the reality check of what it means to be a mid-list author, why certain authors were picked up or not, what worries they were thinking about. And so Matt and I discussed this, and we both came to the conclusion that we wanted a space for creatives, medium agnostics, and not just about books. And so the first iteration of the London Writers Salon, which today is a global writing community, was he pitched the library in Covent Garden this idea that we'd gather as many creative people as possible, and we called it Make 2019 Your Year of Writing. And it would simply be, well, let's talk about what that might mean. And I invited one of my friends who at the time worked for Hachette as a commissioning editor, and we just talked about the reality of being a writer. And then we ran a mini workshop. 40 people showed up for that one event. And that we were like, okay, something's here. There are writers, there are creative people who want to talk about or want to share experiences.
What year was that as well, by the way?
2019.
Okay, right. So just before COVID, right?
Just before COVID. The first year of London Writers Salon was simply an experiment, a side gig. Once a month, we would run an event around writing. So it would be people, really it was low-hanging fruit, people I knew, people who are journalists or writers, or bloggers, and would ask them really direct questions around, well, how much do you earn? What's the reality of this? Like, how do you actually sustain a creative life? Is that possible? Why, what are the frustrations? What are the joys? Because, I think a lot of writers, or they'll realize that you go through, as in life, you go through a series of different challenges within the writing process. Your first is, can I finish this book? Can I finish this piece? And then it's like, can I get it published? Okay, you get it published. Okay, can I make that sales figure that I want, or can I get the validation I'm seeking? And maybe you'll realize you're not going to get it this way. And then it might be, okay, now I've got 3 books in. I still don't feel as though I've hit my creative stride. Like, I don't feel like I found my voice. So it's just a path across which there are many different challenging problems, but also some beautiful problems that you face. So the first iteration of the salon was simply that. Once a month, in person, in London, we ran some masterclasses. COVID hit, and we were, at that point, the doors were still open. I was a member of the Wing, which is a co-working space in Oxford Street, and everything was still running as normal. And I was like, I think we both thought, yeah, this is not, something's wrong. We think everything's going to have to go online next week. And then Matt and I got together on a Sunday. At this point, nothing had been announced, but we're like, toilet paper supplies were dwindling everywhere. People were panicking. And I remember we just had this discussion, like, well, what can we do? And Brené Brown had a quote going around on Instagram, and she said, in times of trouble, she said, be kind, spread kindness, spread calm. And I was like, okay, what is that for us? And I was like, well, I'd come across, Ramit Sethi, he's like an American entrepreneur. I took his courses when I was in Tokyo because I was trying to figure out what to do with my life. And he used to have this, I think it was called Shut Up and Work online sessions, which was a 24-hour Zoom room. Back then it was radical. Yeah. This idea that you could log in any time and just be alongside another person. And so that was one of the sources of inspiration. And then F45, that fitness group, they were approaching COVID by putting on daily sessions on Instagram. And I was like, what if we did a writing? So every single day, we hold a space, people come in and they write. Let's just do it for 10 days. 10 days, it'll all be over, we can go back to normal. And we called it Writer's Hour, silent writing session. We had 100 people on our mailing list, if that, on Instagram. Sent it out at like 10 o'clock, came up with these images. The next day, I think we had 9 people in total. Join us. Like, oh my God, 9 people. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Fun.
Yeah.
And we started writing, and we just simply started writing every single morning, 8 o'clock, Writer's Hour, a focused hour of writing. And then within a couple of weeks, people we realized it wasn't COVID, the pandemic wasn't over.
Wasn't 2 weeks and
Not quite.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little tiny bit more.
yeah.
And so Writers Hour became this second iteration, became the heartbeat of our second iteration of the London Writers Salon. Today, it's a global writing community. We've had the way we position ourselves is we help writers write, find their tribe, get published. But really, it's about, we believe that creative health is as important as mental health. We believe that writing is a really accessible way to feel better about yourself, connect with you, and maybe connect with the world.
Brilliant.
And so how can we bring as many people as possible on that journey? People who want to be writers, people who don't know yet that they are writers.
It's so good. It's just making it so much more accessible and taking away so many of these barriers that I think people put up in their mind. What I love so much about it is that it does feel genuinely like a community, and I think looking from the outside in, from our perspective, it feels like you're not doing things to people but with them, which is really cool. I wonder if you could speak a bit into that, because we were chatting a bit on LinkedIn around this challenge of, it's done super well, London Writers Salon, over the last 5-6 years. How have you and how are you managing that challenge between that really nice sense of close-knit community and growing and scaling it?
Yeah, it's something I'm definitely thinking about, or we have always thought about. And it's interesting, I always think about the definition of community, because I hear a lot of writers talking about them cultivating their own communities. And I think community for me is defined as a many-to-many engagement. It's not one-to-many, it's many-to-many. And often communities have outputs. When I say outputs, I mean things are created because people interact, people find each other. Maybe they form friendships, but maybe in our case, in the writing space, they collaborate together. They do table reads together.
Yeah.
And because of their engagement, they write books, write stage plays. They write comedy reels. And so community in the early days, when we had 30, 40, 50, 60 coming to one session, today we have 300 at least. And in some of our biggest sessions, when we've done things like the 24-hour writing sprint, we've had 700. But that's an extreme case when we have thousands of people coming across a time. But in those early days, I remember people were like, I'm not telling anyone about this because I don't want it to change.
Right.
And I remember being like, oh yeah, they're right. I don't know how I'd cope with 100 people or 150 people in one space. And the truth is, it's not the same, because 30 people and 300 people inevitably have a different energy.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you can scale exactly the same feeling when it comes to Writers Hour. I can talk about the wider community we have, because we have 1,600 members within a online space, which is also a community space. So you can't scale an exact feeling, and you can't scale the way you give a damn about members, or friends, I suppose, people who are in your space, but you can help scale the number of people who care. And so for us, we do 4 Writers Hours a day. It's 1,000 people. There was a point where I did Writers Hour once or twice every single day, but I don't do that anymore.
Good.
I definitely needed a break after. And at the moment, I'm kind of pulled back quite a bit from doing that, because I think I'm trying to center myself again. And I'm also trying to grow Writers Hour. So some of my energy needs to go elsewhere. But we have something like 17 hosts who host Writers Hour. And if you see the way we have a WhatsApp chat, if you see the way they talk about the writers, they're so proud when someone does well. They really care when someone looks like they're not doing well. And so those spaces are held by people who give a damn. Not in exactly the same way that Matt and I do,
Right.
but a version of that. And that comes from the way that Matt, myself, Lindsay, who's one of our team members, how we have trained and imbued that community with our sense. So there's certain guardrails we have in place. If certain behavior comes out, we have to stop it immediately. And then also there are things we can do, like there might be instances where someone emails in and they'll get an immediate response from myself or Matt. And I probably know who they are. And I don't know everyone today, but I certainly know people more than they realize. And because I'm in charge of social media, often when I go to, say, in-person events, I'm like, oh, I know you. You're doing this. And they're like, how did you know? It's like, well, because I care. Like, because I'm still here.
Yeah, it's good.
I love that. I've written here on my notes, Insta equals great. So I'm glad that you did it, because that's I find myself screen grabbing the London Writers Salon Instagram a lot and saving it. I've got a little note to self Google Doc, and I save that. So it's really, really good stuff. And I think the community stuff of like feeling like you are interrupting my thoughts right now. And so it's good.
That's fascinating. So the idea of the community, and community doesn't really scale. At least that's what we think of it. But you can multiply, right? So I think we've thought about it very similarly in a sense that like we've got one location, here in Queen's Park, and to grow, we have to create a new thing.
Yes.
And so that community isn't going to it's not going to grow into another space really, but we can replicate the things that facilitate the formation of a community here and have it happen again somewhere else. And it's like your what did you call them? The facilitators,
the hosts.
The hosts, yeah. So hosts, right? That's a perfect word for it, because our community managers, club managers, they're effectively hosts at a space, and we give them a lot of autonomy to host in their own way. But it's sort of like within the framework that we've tried to set. And it's like, okay, go now, do your thing. And the relationships there are built within that. And it's interesting because then like we feel separated from that. Like we're actually not part of that community in the same way, but we're trying to help create that in that space and do that. And so it's like multiplying more than it is growing one thing.
Definitely. Yeah. It's like creative mornings do something very similar.
Yeah.
They have their individual spaces. CrossFit, really. I mean, these are all places that I feel like they hold certain values sacred, and you should feel it wherever you go, in a way that's not soulless like McDonald's. When I was a kid, I traveled a lot, and I remember I moved a lot, and I used to think naively that McDonald's was a familiar place. But now as an adult, I think it's a very soulless place. Like you're not getting people who care. You're just getting a replication of exactly the same thing.
A facsimile of
exactly.
the thing,
Versus, how do you? And I guess some of the questions that we have, because we have not only those hosts, but within our member space. So we don't have a physical space, but we have an online version of essentially this, right? So, or in a version of that, because we have 24-hour Zoom rooms. So we have a library, a cafe, and what's the other one? Library, a cafe, and a cabin, where you can either write, you can do your meetups, or you can have more socialized spaces.
That's nice.
And then we have like critique group rooms, and we have rooms for anything that person might want, because it's based on demand. But how is that sustained? We have a host. So I host, for example, the query room. So for people who are querying agents, because it happens to be something I love talking about and thinking about. It's just part of my experience. So I'll host once a month a query room. And so there are another 20 people like me who host their own rooms. And then our community manager and Matt will look after those hosts, make sure they feel good about what they're doing, train them, give them the support they need so that they can support their own individual sections of the space.
So interesting.
That's really cool. I wonder, like, where did the idea of community and writing come from? Rightly or wrongly, in my initial thought when I think of writing, it's like Henry David Thoreau, like in a cabin in the woods, solo venture, right? A lot of art is sort of very like, it comes from inside, and so you kind of feel like you're on your own. But so I'm interested to know, like, how did that piece come up? Was it something that you were missing, craving, and then that was a thing, or did you experience it in a way that you were like, people need this? I don't know.
Yeah, it's a good question, because you're right. A lot of writers think of writing as something that you typically wouldn't do with other people, and not all writers, but I certainly see a pattern of introverts or that sort of attitude of, obviously many writers, particularly more fiction than non-fiction, surprisingly, who seem to be quite introverted. And so aren't necessarily craving a community. The great thing about our writing community is a lot of it, the majority of what we do, if you look at the sheer hours, because we do 4 writing hours a day, they're silent and they're on your own. So it's you're able to both be on your own, but also be within a larger space. So for both Matt and I came to it from different angles.
Okay.
So for me, as someone who worked in a publishing house, I never thought about writers in that way. I only thought about them as my work, clients. I never really thought about the struggles that they were going through. Not really, because I was too concerned with what I was doing, which is I want to edit the book, I need to publish the book, I want the book to do well. But then when I was a freelancer, I guess I'm naturally a connector and I like connecting people. So I would naturally want to connect people who could help each other. And I wanted to have conversations publicly. There was no aspiration for anything other than, wouldn't it be fun? And wouldn't it be great to get people together so that they feel less alone? That was where I was coming to it.
Yeah.
Matt had worked at Escape the City, was naturally in community. He understood that space. And he found that a third of people who wanted to escape their careers wanted to escape into writing. So he was already dreaming of a program for writing in a community space. And then when we came together, I don't think either of us, like Writers Hour, for example, there's no way that either of us on that Sunday when we came up with this idea, that's not novel, but yet was novel in some ways by the way we did it, that the container is very, very specific and it works. And we've seen a lot of people replicate it, but it's not novel. It created a feeling that I didn't realize could happen when you get people together, not just once a month, once every 2 weeks. When you get someone together every single day and you have the opportunity, you start creating connection. And Casper de Carl is this author. He has a book called, we interviewed him ages ago, and he talked about the power of rituals and how to make spaces sacred. And he gives the example of when you go to college or university, there are people you sit opposite at the dining table. You have breakfast with them. You don't even like them, but you see their face every single day and you feel some kind of kinship with them. And that idea started happening in our space. We have people who bumped into each other at the railway station. Like, hold on, don't I know you from... I mean, we have had random interactions that have occurred that I wouldn't have thought would be possible by writing in a silent space together.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That's so interesting. I mean, it reminds me a little bit of when you're at university and you go to the library. You know, like you could be working from home by yourself, but you go to the library, you're still working on your own thing, but it's the recognizing the fact that you are a social human being and the environment and people you're with who are also heads down studiously working away has an effect on you, you know, in some way.
Right. And there's a little bit of validation you get. So we have in the Writers Hour, we have the check-in. And we say, you know, what are you working on? Share it in the chat. I've gone to Writers Hour as a participant, almost like, not anonymously, but just because I wanted to and I didn't want to be hosting. And I've wanted my name to be called out. And it meant something to me. Oh, Parul's working on her short story collection. Great. And at the end, when you check out, we can't call on everyone, but we do acknowledge as many people as possible. Okay, great. You wrote 500 words today. Okay, you didn't have a good day. All right. Totally understand. I'm glad that you were here. But then we call on a few people. And I noticed that the way people support each other, whether someone's having a good day or a bad day, or they're writing about something, you know, very esoteric or hilarious, like I'm writing about gnomes in the 15th century, you know, and their friends. Honestly, the topics you hear about are quite strange, but then the way people support each other, like, oh my God, that sounds amazing. And then I'll see that person check out feeling, you know, inspired. And often hearing about another writer talk will inspire other writers just because that person's saying, you know what, I'm nearly at the end of my first draft, but I'm just not feeling it. I'm just not sure if I can do this. But them voicing that then creates this feeling amongst other people. No, you can. Don't worry about it. You got this. I totally understand where you're at. So I think it's just being seen.
I love that. And it segues somewhat into, I would love to ask a question around how you I'm well struck by the fact that you've had a lot of exposure to very good advice, and you obviously have done a huge amount of research, and this is your world. And so, imposter syndrome, the resistance, as Stephen Pressfield calls it, all this stuff that basically you want to write, but you don't, or you stop, or you don't publish. What's some of the sort of top takeaways you would give for helping overcome the resistance? And maybe even go into like what helps you in your creative practice, like.
Yeah, it's interesting. We always ask writers what their relationship with self-doubt is, and I have yet to come across anyone who has said, "What do you mean?"
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I remember, so Yancey Strickler, he's the co-founder of Kickstarter. He's a really interesting guy. He's on LinkedIn a lot. He's talking about creating an A Corp, an artists corporation.
I read this, yeah.
And I remember when he talked about imposter syndrome, he was saying, he's like, "Oh, my self-doubt. It's right here. Can't you see it? Like, it's sitting with me. It's here all the time." Stephen Pressfield, we interviewed him, and he was talking a lot about, I mean, for him, it's just a beast that you constantly battle with. What I think is interesting is, I always think about this. He says, the greater the shadow, the bigger the dream. So it's like, oh yeah, of course. Of course I feel so much resistance towards this because I'm scared, because it matters to me. And then there's another writer, Beck Evans, and she and her partner they've written a book called Written. It's all around how to write and how to create good habits. And they did a study. It was more around academic writing, but I think the principles apply. And it was around looking at what successful writers do well. And I found this intriguing. And I see this played out with almost every writer I've spoken to. There is no one way. There is no magic bullet. But what is true for the writers that do well is that they know what works for them, and they likely have experimented with what works for them. So some writers, particularly the more, as I'd say, well-known writers, when I ask them things like, to tell me about your writing practice, like, where do you write? How do you write? They're like, oh, but I'll tell you, but like, please don't think that this is for you. And I'm like, I totally understand that. We're just nosy. Because everyone will do it differently.
Yeah.
Some people, I know of writers who've written almost exclusively on their phone, on notes, in between looking after children. Writers who've written novels while on the train, on their way to work. Writers who will wake up early in the morning at 5 a.m. and light a candle and write for 2 hours. Writers who write at night. Writers who have hours in the day. It's like there is no one way. And it's so, when I think about resistance, I think about this idea of the shadow. How great is that shadow for you? What is this dream you're after? And then I think about some of it is discipline. Like, what do you need for you, given your circumstances and your life and the way that you know you work? What do you need to get yourself to simply sit and focus on that, wherever it might be, whether it's an airplane, in a park, at your desk, and then you just simply have to go through.
Yeah. Was Anne Lamott say the secret to writing is butt in chair?
Right.
Do it.
Yeah.
That's really good.
And the other thing that, or who did we interview recently who's talking about this? Gretchen Rubin. So we interviewed Gretchen Rubin recently, and she's obviously quite a powerhouse. So I love her nonfiction work. And she was definitely talking about just the sheer number of drafts. It's like it likely will take a lot of time to get you to where you want to go.
Yeah.
And actually, if you go to Julia Cameron and how she talks about discipline, I suppose for her, she has her way. So you're potentially about to embark on the artist's way, which is awesome. And so she said something interesting in her memoir, which was that she talks about, everyone knows about morning pages, which is those 3 pages that you do. But actually, she calls for a second set of 3 pages, which is done in the afternoon or wherever you want. And that's when you do your work. So she's saying, don't do more than 3 pages every day. And I think I asked her, like, first of all, is this true? Because no one else seems to talk about your second set of 3 pages. So the first is the unblocking.
Right.
just getting your thoughts on the page, whatever is in your way. And the second set is actually doing the work. And I said, well, why 3 pages? And she said, because you have to live.
That's good.
Yeah,
Which I thought was, which I thought was
that's
like,
good.
it's interesting.
That's really
So
good.
that's her idea of discipline.
Yeah.
2 sets of 3
Yeah.
pages.
I love how non-prescriptive everything you said was there. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
a lot of the advice in LinkedIn is do these 3 things and you'll be fine. And it's that person's 3 things, but it might not be.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Everyone has a shortcut to success. If just do these 3 things, these 5 things.
Right.
Um,
We're all so different. We all,
Right.
I always think personally, with anything in life is how can I reduce the friction for me? What is my hack? Like what will make me do a thing?
Mhm.
So I know, for example, like with the gym, if I have my gym gear in my bag, that's going to help me. And I will at one point, I'll make a decision to book the class. And then once that's booked, I'm on my way. Before that, I'm a little bit not quite there.
Yeah.
With writing, for me, it's worked out that I realize audio notes are my best friend. So when I'm stuck and I'm like, I don't want to write, I'm like, fine, I'll just talk. I'll talk into notes and just, I have an app for it and I just talk into it. And sometimes I'll just ideate. So I'm not sure about this character. Like, what's going on with this character? Ask me some questions about this character and why they're not connecting with their partner.
Interesting. That semi-segues me into another question because one of Seth Godin's great points he made in a conversation with you guys was writing's not talent, it's skill. If you can talk, you can be a writer, right? If you can literally just say things, we all say things, you can write. And he's one of our heroes, and it's interesting. Often your entry point into podcast is people you've heard of elsewhere and as your heroes. So I definitely recommend anyone listening to this, check out the Seth Godin London Writers Salon, check out the Julia Cameron one, check out the Oliver Burkeman one. I'm halfway through his book, Meditations for Mortals. He's on the podcast as well. But I would love to know, those are some of our heroes. I'd love to know for you, who is, and you probably can't have favorites, but who would you say you've interviewed or you've got on who's personally had the biggest impact on you?
I mean, it's so specific to what I'm writing, I suppose. So for me, and this is what I find interesting about having interviewed so many different writers and creative people, and this is true of life in general. You'll come across someone or they'll just say one line and that line will stick in your head and you'll think about it. You'll think about, oh yeah, that somehow is pertinent to my situation. So for me, I was blown away by 2 female writers, actually. Kate Moss, she's a historical fiction writer, prolific. She founded the Women's Prize for Fiction. She's a powerhouse. Like she fought really hard to try and get more visibility for female writers. The way she talks about craft, I have this image of her. I have this image that she depicted in the interview. So it's very specific to what I guess I'm interested in. But she talked about going on holiday for research, but I guess for holiday too. And just breathing in the space around her and trying to like pull in what was happening around her for story. And so that's one thing that stuck with me, the way she talked about that. Tessa Hadley is an interesting writer. She writes a lot of literary fiction. I don't actually read that much literary fiction. I tend to quite like thrillers and spy novels. But I do read some literary as well, a little bit of literary. But she's interesting because she didn't start writing until she was in her 40s. And she's now one of the most celebrated literary fiction writers. She writes short stories, she writes fiction, and her work is just a page turn. Like she's so compelling. But when she talked about finding her voice, and actually both Kate Moss and her had this, maybe that's what stuck with me. They both talked about what it took to find their voice. For Kate Moss, it was book 4. So her book Labyrinth, I think, was made into a stage play. I think it might still be on, but it took her 4 books to get there. So she was still published, but it still took her a while. And she talks about that process of just, I guess, growing your own confidence with your voice, which I feel like, you know, you and I probably all do it. We're all doing it in some way. Like even on LinkedIn, we play like, is this what I want to say? Is this how I want to say it? I'm not really sure. I certainly feel like I'm very early in my writing. I'm still searching. And Tessa Hadley talked about that as well. She talked about She talked about being in the wilderness.
Mm.
She likened it to just wandering through. And what it took her a while to finally find her house,
Mm-hmm.
like actually be able to enter it in that place where she felt like she had found her voice. And what I loved is she talked about with fiction not being nice to your characters at all. And she really does like whatever, when she has a character at the start, by the end, that character is like, gone through things that you would not have imagined, even though it's in a way, like some of them are quite, I want to say polite. They're like about domestic life. And yet she really pushes that character. So she's like, don't be nice. And so that's always stuck with me.
Interesting.
And I guess in a way, like with writers, when we interview them, it's the writers that make you feel like, they might say something very smart that helps you, but they make you feel like it's possible.
Mm-hmm.
That it's almost like they're including you as a collaborator in this creative space. Of course you can write. You just have to find your voice. Just spend some time. Keep moving through the wilderness. Keep playing. Have fun with it. Of course you'll feel self-doubt. Of course you'll feel resistance. But this is something that matters to you and maybe matters to the world, just because we're all then contributing to a collective consciousness. Like a person who writes, I feel like even if it's not seen, is somehow, if you believe we're all connected, we're somehow adding something to the into the ether.
Yeah. Bringing something out, right? There's something that's real in your mind, in your heart, and you put it out there. Like there's something about that, and that's why it's super scary to do it, because it whatever it is, it's yours, right? Yeah, you're putting it out, and you're exposing something about yourself. And I think that's where we feel that resistance. But that's the beautiful thing about what we do create is that, if I read what you've written, like, especially in an age of AI and all this stuff where things are just regurgitated. But if you write something that comes out, right, and this is now something that's unique and interesting, and, even if it's not objectively good in some sense, right, there's something real about it that is beautiful. And I think that if we can remember that and celebrate that, it allows us to keep going.
Absolutely. And it also just enables human connection.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I think, and I have this where I fear the pain that might come if someone thinks, God, she's an idiot. What has she written? But then there might be someone who just thinks, okay, I understand her a little bit better. Maybe I'll reach out to her. And this actually, we have a mentor, James Routledge.
Yeah.
Lovely guy. And he's the one who made me write on LinkedIn. I was like, because side note, I went to the Jaipur Literary Festival in January. And
cool.
This is when I realized I was a total extrovert, because I think I went up to over 100 people and said, hi, my name's Parul. Would love to know more about you. But I ended up getting profiled by the Hindustan Times, which for my family was a great. But I remember James said to me, oh, feels like you really enjoy that. I was like, are you kidding me? I hated that. I was like, I do not like being looked at. I do not need to be profiled. And he's like, okay, we need to talk about this. What is this resistance you're feeling? And he said, I want you to start writing on LinkedIn. I was like, oh, really? I don't even know what I'd write about. And he's like, well, what are you thinking about? I was like, I don't think anyone wants to read that. And he's like, well, and I said to him, well, why do you write on LinkedIn? Because he's an entrepreneur and he's been writing about his journey for years. And I said, exactly. And I said, well, what have you gained from LinkedIn, writing on LinkedIn? He's like, what have I not gained from that? He said, the number of people I've connected with, the connections, the speaking opportunities. He said, and he said, I now can just write and share, and it helps him connect with other people who are in his situation or he wants to reach out to. So I started eventually writing, and within the space of, I've barely written a few posts, but I feel like my confidence has grown. I care a little bit less now about what people think. And I've had all sorts of opportunities. Including this podcast came about, I think, through just me being on LinkedIn.
Some interactions.
I really love that framing, because a lot of what you see on LinkedIn is people saying you should write all the time to increase sales and boost your engagement. And actually, I agree with you. When I did a 30-day writing challenge, the best thing that came out of it I was invited to join a peer-to-peer coaching group.
Nice.
With a guy called Will James, who's been on the podcast, and I just met lovely new people who I have stuff in common with.
Yeah.
We're involved in the same spheres of work, and it's great.
Yeah, that's good.
That's really good.
I wonder. So, obviously, as a writer, there's like a writer editor. That's a level of kind of creative energy that goes out. And then now you've got this organization that's sort of come up, and so that's a different type of creativity. It's a different type of like managing things and trying to figure this out. Like, how do you find those things different and similar in the sense that there's a lot of similarities, and as a business owner, business founder, like I can like listen to you talking about writing, and I'm thinking about like how we put things out in the world that's like from a business perspective. Like, do you find one of the do you find the business side, business part of it harder, easier? Is it hit the same notes?
On like personally, like
Yeah, like you as kind of being a co-founder of a thing, and then comparing that to like, okay, now I'm a writer, I'm editing, or I'm doing this other side of my world. Obviously, there's overlap, but
yeah.
What is that like?
So I've been an editor for many years. I still identify as an editor, even though I do very little editing these days. But that's where I suppose that's where my heart is always there. Like if anyone reaches out to me and I'm always like, and they have a novel, I'm like, oh, why don't we have a chat? I can help you do a one-pager around that. Let's talk about your characters. I love doing that. So my work typically has been one-to-one. That was my work. I mean, I've been now doing this for 5 years, but one-to-one has been the way I operated for many, many years as an editor. So I was an editor at a publishing house. I was a literary scout, which was maybe one to many because I was kind of going out and talking to publishers. But at the Salon, it's definitely not that. Right. I mean, there's been a lot of the stuff that I would have done in the beginning. So a lot of the coaching with writers, I don't do that now. We have a team in place for that. So my role has shifted over the 5 years, which again, I naively didn't understand that. I'd never run a business before. I didn't really think about how you don't do the same thing 5 years in. Why would you? I think of them as very different spaces. One is very focused, one-on-one, or just me by myself. If I'm now I'm writing. I wasn't until 2 years ago. I was only ever editing. And the other one is family business. It's creative, but it's business. It's work. It's trying to get a specific goal. Or even if I'm caring for people, if I'm caring for the community, it's a different hat. It's creative, but in a very entrepreneurial way. So I find those spaces, in all honesty, it's hard. It's hard to be creative when you're running a business. And I often think about, I feel like Julia Cameron talks about this, the shadow artist. Many of us, I think Matt has shared this sentiment too, many of us who are creative are drawn to, if we aren't being creative, we're drawn to the shadow work, which is supporting those creatives. And so a recent challenge, and this is part of what James at Sanctus was pushing me to do, is to write, but also I'm starting to put a bit more attention on my own writing, because I haven't been.
Great.
Because I would try to. So say like the 24-hour writing sprint, we've run this a few times. It's 24 hours, back-to-back writers' hours. Yes, I get some writing done, but I'm also managing the entire thing. So even if I have other hosts in place, my attention is not, I don't have an empty space.
Yeah.
I have interruptions.
Yeah.
I get some work done. So it's a constant challenge.
Yeah.
And I think this is maybe true. I feel like it's maybe something that's happens with everyone, like entrepreneurs specifically, but everyone. I feel like it's easy to work. It's easy for that to take over your life. And how do you create a balance? Where's the line?
Yeah.
When your work is your passion, where's the line where it's just for you?
That's good.
And when it's your livelihood, when you're carrying that.
Yes.
Carrying all that of, will this continue? Will it grow? It's a burden. It can be a burden.
Right, because everything you do can impact that bottom line.
Yeah.
And so you're tempted to always do it.
Yeah.
But there comes, I think, the warning signs, or when you, and actually another writer talked about this. She said, when you start to feel restless, when you start to feel a bit off, when you have random thoughts popping into your head of, should I still be doing this? Then there's a sign that you need to examine whether or not the way in which you're operating suits you.
Got you.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's really good. I wonder if that might be a good place to wrap it up.
Yeah.
Unless you've got,
I mean, we could talk forever, and there's lots of things that we'll have to have you back another time. Keep talking, but that's good. How do hopefully there's people that are listening that haven't found out about the Writers Salon. How do they get involved? What's the entry point?
Yeah, well, a really good place to start would be Writers Hour. So writershour.com. We have it's just a place if you want to write and you want a bit of accountability, come to a Writers Hour or two, and you can use the code WriterFriend to have access. We give that code freely away, but you can also use that code to have free access for anyone who's listening. But come along, try a few sessions, and if anyone has any questions, just reach out to me. Just reach out, hello@londonwritersalon.com. I'd be really happy to take any questions.
Amazing.
Yeah,
it's really good.
And I would just stress as well, that the what was the expression you used? I loved about being genre agnostic,
medium agnostic.
Yeah. So anyone in any form of writing, there's a space for you there.
Yeah. What I find interesting is most writers will have like one primary project, and then they'll also have a sideline. Like, I kind of write some poetry in my free time. Like, it's something I'm thinking about tinkering with. Well, if you hang out with a bunch of writers, you might find that your poetry starts to get stronger, or that novel idea that you've been sitting on you just start to be more interested in it because of a conversation you've had with another writer.
Yeah.
That's great. That's the beauty of community. Nice one. Thanks for being on. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you for inviting me.
We're super glad to have it.
Thank you so much.
I love what you guys are doing here too. I mean, it sounds like I feel like there are so many co-working spaces around, and a lot of them don't scale with soul. And I love that you're trying to focus on that, and you're trying to figure out how to make that work.
Trying. That's it. That's the key factor.
I think anyone who's scaling community can only try.
That's right.
Because there's no formula.
Yeah.
There's simply a trying, a working towards.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you see it. It seems worth it. And so you're like, well, how do we figure out what that might be?
Yes.
And you try something.
Yeah.
we're all just winging it.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
Yeah.
Of course.
So it's good. Nice one.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. This has been brilliant.
Just hit the button.
Hit the button.